Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. So, today we are going to talk about Black women over 50 and toxic job stress. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Angela, and welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus, where we delve into the real, the raw, and the rewarding experiences of Black women 50 and beyond. But first, I have a huge favor to ask. If you find value, any value, or enjoy our content, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification and let YouTube know you want more of this content. It's free and you're helping us build this community. So thank you, and we truly appreciate your support. So, toxic jobs heavily impact Black women. And then if you're a Black woman and 50 or beyond, you might have other issues that you're dealing with, such as ageism. We often face biases. Sometimes we're excluded from opportunities within the workforce. Some of us might be dealing with the added pressure of being a caregiver. You might still have adult children at home. And then you're also dealing or potentially dealing with your own health concerns. And then you're trying to plan for retirement. That makes it really hard for Black women 50 and older to leave the workforce. And over time, these stressors, they lead to a higher rate of burnout, chronic health issues, emotional exhaustions, and all these significantly impact our overall well-being. So my guest today, Dr. Kimani Norton-Sands, who's a licensed clinical psychologist. Her company is Lifting As We Climb Consulting, focuses on helping to liberate Black women from toxic jobs. She also has a YouTube channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting. And then we also have Dr. Rosché Brown, who is a financial psychologist. They will be hosting a financial masterclass for Black women January 8th and 9th, and the link will be in the description below. So please, let's welcome Dr. Kimani and Dr. Rosché. All right, so I pronounced your name right, Dr. Brown, Dr.
Dr.
Rosché?
Rosché Brown, yes.
Okay,
You
so
got
can
it.
you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, of course. So my name is Dr. Rosché Brown. I am also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I
Oh.
help people to remix their thinking so they can make their money, they can manage their money, and they can multiply their money. And so that's what I help people do as a financial psychologist. Because I am actually a licensed clinical psychologist, been doing the work for many, many years now. I am able to help with the emotional barriers and the money mindset that is needed to either attract money or to manage it better. So that's what I help people do.
Okay. And Dr. Kamani, I know a lot of people already know who you are, but is there anything that I missed when I gave you an intro?
Well, I'll just formally introduce myself too, even though you already did. So I'm Dr. Kimani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, originally from Chicago, but I live in Los Angeles. And I am a toxic job survivor on my YouTube channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting Wellness Services. I talk a lot about Black women and the experiences in a toxic job. And I'll talk about not only my healing journey from a toxic job, but I also provide a platform for other Black women to come on and talk about their healing journey. We share resources. I just provide so many things for Black women so that we know about our options. And I also call myself the toxic job liberator for Black women.
Okay. Okay. So I really wanted to bring you guys on because, Dr. Kamani, I've listened to your podcast, and I do hear a lot about, just your topics about Black women and toxic jobs, but I wanted to kind of delve a little deeper in, especially for women 50 and beyond.
Mhm.
Because I know there's probably, even though we're all dealing with the toxic job issues, I didn't know and would like to, get both your opinion on, is there a difference? Is there a difference between the demographics when it comes to how Black women handle the stress of these toxic jobs?
Yes. So when you think about 50 and up, we're in the Gen X, right? So Gen X are baby boomers. And so we've been brought up in a certain way by baby boomers generally that
Hmm.
we get a good job and we stay there and we get the pension and we retire and
Right.
right and we just take it. And so many of us have been socially programmed like that. We put our head down, We just stay in our own lane. We just focus, 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 and work hard. So when we start experiencing toxic work conditions, we start recognizing it, but then we say to ourselves, I got this. You're not going to run me out this good job. I can play the game. I know what's going on. I know this devil. Like all this stuff we start saying to ourselves. But
Right.
many times, 50 and up, we don't pay attention to the impact that being in that toxic job is having on us physically, psychologically, and spiritually. So we might say things like, oh, my blood pressure's going up. Oh, I'm gaining weight. I can't sleep that well. Maybe I need to go to the doctor and get this checked out. But a lot
Right.
of times we don't look at the source of the stress. Now, as Black women, particularly 50 and up, we have a lot of other stresses going on too. But a
Right.
lot of times the job is a major stressor because we're there most of our waking hours. So we don't really identify that the job is the thing that's causing me to get sick, to have me access these good benefits. So as Black women within this age category, it's part of our social programming. And we've
Hmm.
also been told, 50 and up, that we focus on other people, right? We take care of other people. We
Yes.
are the super women, Shaka Khan, I'm every woman, right? So we
Right.
glamorize that like, yeah, I'm every woman. I can, I got this and I got this and I got this, right? But what happens is that we keep going to the point where we're past exhaustion and
Hmm.
we're not paying attention to ourselves. We're making sure everybody else is taken care of, our kids, our spouses, our families, our friends, our church community, but we're not taking care of ourselves. And so what we're starting to see now is that Black women are starting to experience cardiovascular disease and other very serious health conditions at younger ages because we're experiencing so much stress, chronic stress, and we're not paying attention to it. And then we continue to stay in environments that harm us. So that
Hmm.
means that you're harmed by the job and then you continually are harmed by the job. So there's no
Right.
reprieve at all.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I was just gonna like add a little bit to it.
Yeah.
When I think about the stereotype of the strong Black woman, right? So when we think specifically of this demographic, it comes from a reality, right? That we believe on like putting everything on us as much as we can,
Right.
and we can handle it, we can take care of it. We don't like to tell anybody that we're struggling,
Mhm,
that something's wrong with us. We feel the pain in our body, it will ignore the pain that's
mhm,
in our body, for months and months and months, not even go and get it checked out. And so I think that that has a lot to do with it, particularly in our, community, in our culture, is that you're supposed to be strong
yeah.
as the woman. And so I think we put all that on our back, and we actually, stay at toxic jobs a lot longer because
Mhm.
we already are taught that, you can't just be good, you have to be better than.
Oh yeah, twice as good, half as much.
Right, that's already, you got to be the best. So a
Mhm,
part of us go into a job already knowing that we're going to have to do better than anybody else around us,
mhm,
and we already know we have to deal with some levels of racism and oppression and stereotypes, and we're always trying to fight against stereotypes. So even though we don't want to be too aggressive, even though we
mhm,
should advocate for ourselves, right?
mhm.
But we're
Right.
like, oh, wait, I don't want to be considered, you know what I mean, like that aggressive Black woman. So
Thank
we're
you,
really
Black
like
woman.
holding those
Mhm,
things back, biting our tongue on things that we really should stand up for ourselves. So all those pieces are happening at this toxic job, and
mhm.
it's taking you out, and you're
Yeah.
not even recognizing it.
Yeah, yeah. And coupled with that, within our generation too, is we have these money stories. I just think about as I was growing up, my mother told me, save, 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 save. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you spend a
Right.
little, but you save a whole bunch. But she didn't teach me about investments. She didn't
Hmm.
teach me
Right.
about like what to save or how to save. Just save, 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 right? So I have been in this position where there was not conversation with me growing up about finances, about investments, about generational wealth, about
Right.
multiple streams of income. None of that. So how I was brought up was again, you get that job and that's your only source of income. And then when you retire, then again, that's your only source of income. So the income, your benefits, everything comes through the job. So that coupled with that save, save, save mentality, and
Yeah.
really not, I didn't really have financial literacy. I really didn't. Like I saw
No.
my mother balance her checkbook, but that's it.
Right. That's it.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I know for me, and probably like you two as well, that your well, my mother, because she was the prime, she grew up in, divorced parents, but for me, she wasn't necessarily, well, just save, save, save. She did a little bit of teaching me how to invest in things of that nature, but it was stay at your job. Yeah, maybe if you need to get a second job, go ahead and do that. But it was so focused on that one job. And for me, it wasn't big. I mean, she wasn't big on, well, go to college and all that. I mean, I guess the Generation X, we kind of slid under that, not having to go to college as much. But yeah, I didn't feel like I was really prepared when I finally got into the workforce and could understand, okay, so what's next?
Mhm.
Right.
What's next after this?
Mhm.
And I know I stayed at many a jobs where I'm going, why am I'm not moving up, even
Yeah.
though I'm doing the most, I'm not
Yeah.
moving up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And when I hit it seems like when I hit my last job, well, the last job is because I got terminated, well, laid off because I went on disability. And
Mm.
so, yeah, exactly right, Dr. Kamani.
Yeah.
That look, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's horrible.
But trying to find, and then at one time I was like, okay, let me try and find another job. But I also started feeling that ageism, even though they, of course, can't say it. They're like,
Right.
well, there's a lot of traveling, and so it was a lot of excuses. So I was like, you know what? It's just time for me to bow out and figure
Mhm.
something else out. So
Mhm.
so how can prolonged exposure to, this like microaggression and exclusion impact the self-esteem
Oh,
and overall mental health, especially women in our age range?
yes. So it can make you start feeling like you're going crazy because in the environment, they're gaslighting you, but they're telling you, no, no, that's not what you see is not really what you see, right? That it's really something else. And
Yes.
maybe you need to take some leadership or you need to do
Mhm.
this, you need to do that. So then you
Communication
start,
skills.
right.
Right.
I get that a lot. You need communication classes.
Oh,
Right.
right. So then you start questioning yourself and your abilities, even though you know that it's no way that you could have just easily gotten that job. You had to be up and above to even gotten that job. But
Yeah.
once you get at the job, they will start doing mind tricks on you to make you think that you're less than,
Yeah.
right? That you're less than. So then you start like believing that, like, oh my God, I need to go back to school. I need to get another credential. I need to get mentorship. I need to do now sometimes maybe, but a lot of times no, right?
Mm.
It's just it's a way for them to kind of put you in your place. And if let's say you do feel confident that you feel, like this thing, then they're intimidated by you. So then you have to be very mindful of how you present to them because you don't want to make people uncomfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
now as a Black woman, you're coming to the workplace and you're masking, you're kind of dimming, you're kind of bowing down.
Right.
You don't want to make people uncomfortable because
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're insecure. So you're walking this fine line because if you're overconfident, then they're going to come for you. And
Right.
then if you're questioning or if you're starting to, like seek them for validation and promotions and all that kind of stuff, now they got you. Now they can manipulate you because they're like, oh, we'll just have her work harder. We'll just tell her, she's not ready this year. But maybe if you work really hard and we'll
Mhm.
put with these benchmarks, then maybe next year,
Mhm.
that
Right.
you'll be
But the
deserving.
benchmark keeps on moving.
Right.
Yes.
And you see other people
Yeah.
promoted who don't have half the skills that you
Mhm.
have, right? But it's who they
Yes.
know. It's who they know. So all
Yeah.
of that can make us feel insecure. You can start questioning ourselves. It can make us feel very anxious. So when we're in the work environment, we're second guessing ourselves all the time,
Yeah.
tone policing, we're checking our emails over and over again. So the anxiety can then carry over to when we're at home. So now we're worried about the job so much that we're constantly talking about the job all the time because you're thinking like, okay, if they do this, and I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do it, right? So you're constantly thinking about it. It's gonna mess with your sleep because now it's all in your dreams and you can't shake it once you go home. And then there's also maybe depression. So the sadness about maybe, you really wanted this job and you really thought the job was going to be this
Yeah.
one way, one thing, and you get there and it's like, what the heck is this? This is
Mm.
not what I thought it was going to be. And or did I work this hard to get here? To have
Yeah.
people treat me like this? And so that sense of like helplessness and hopelessness about there's nothing I can do to change the situation. And there's nobody who here to really help me. So what we do as Black women, particularly 50 and up, is that we say, okay, I'm just going to work harder. I'm just going to work harder and I'm going to prove to them that I'm worthy. I'm going to prove to them that I should get this promotion. But what happens is that sets us up for burnout. So we work harder and harder and harder. We don't recognize the burnout is there. That's a telltale sign of burnout is when you start working harder, but then you start
Mm.
feeling like there's literally
Hmm.
nothing that you could do. And then you get to a point of complete exhaustion. So there's a range of different things. Also, Black women can experience trauma symptoms in relation to a job. So they may have PTSD in relation to how they're treating her at the job. So the trauma, right? So the trauma may be specific to the job and or it might remind her of other trauma she's had in her life. So when you think about being in a toxic job, if you have unresolved childhood trauma or
Mm.
childhood wounds, the job is going to parallel that in many ways, and then you feel very, very stuck because this is very similar to the dynamics, the very dysfunctional dynamics that you're used to. And you might say to yourself, oh, this is a familiar environment. It's not familiar. You're just used to the dysfunction. But
Yes.
it's not safe, it's not secure, it's not any of those things. But that's what happens when we start deluding ourselves in many ways because there's nobody around us who can really reality test. And then that's how it takes a toll on our ability to really see things for what it is and say, wait a minute, this is messed up, right? This
Yeah.
is not what I signed up for. Let me see what I need to do. But all that stuff, and Angela, many times our parents, the baby boomers, right? When we tell them about the stress we're experiencing at the job, they'll say, well, girl, just do it. Girl,
Got that good job.
don't let them run you out of that good job. Girl, what you doing, right? So they're like, so you're like, oh, dang, like, okay, I need to. So then you stay longer because people around you that you care about, and they're not saying in a malicious way, that's just
Right.
all that they know. That's just the way they were brought up. So then you stay even longer.
How do you get this age range to not be afraid to leave? I mean, that's the big thing because if you're financially and you're all, if you're not ready financially, but
Mhm.
you're at the point where it's your health
Yeah.
is at stake, how do you encourage them to leave? That seems, especially if maybe they're single and they don't have
Yeah.
someone to help them
Yeah.
with the
Well,
finances?
yeah. Well, the first thing is to acknowledge that the fear is normal, right? So nothing anybody can say is going to take the fear away. So the first thing is to acknowledge the fear is normal, okay? So when you feel the fear about leaving something you're used to, that's normal, okay?
Mhm,
The
mhm.
fear is telling you, okay, there's some things we need to get in order so that you'll be okay. So the first thing is to acknowledge the fear is going to be there. The second thing is, okay, I feel the fear. What can I do to help the fear decrease in some ways? And what are the ways that I can prepare myself as much as possible that when I shift out this job, when I pivot out this job, I'll be in a better situation financially, professionally, and personally. So, what things do I need to start preparing for? So, that's when I talk on my channel so much about preparation and following up on resources and looking at your options. I don't want Black women to just up and jump up like one day, oh, I hate this job, I'm out, right?
Yes.
Unless we're experiencing immediate danger, right? Physically and or psychologically. But other than that, I really try to encourage Black women to identify what resources you have and really start planning, right? So as Black women, particularly 50 and up, we know about getting ready, we know about getting prepared. So it's just starting getting prepared, right? Those little steps. So the financial masterclass is one way
Yeah.
to help Black women get their financial exit plan together based upon when they want to go and learn ways to replace your income. Because the big thing about leaving a job is you're thinking, well, I got bills to pay, right? So
Mhm.
where am I going to get the money from? So learning actual ways of how to replace your income so it's less scary. It's still going to be scary, but it's
Mhm.
less scary because you're like, okay, now I know how to replace my income through multiple streams of income. And
Right.
now I know better about how to monitor and get a better hold on my finances. So all of
Okay.
that comes through the financial masterclass.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
just want to add a little bit to it
yeah.
because I'm really big on journaling. Okay, so
Okay.
when I think about anxiety, a lot of times when we're having like in a toxic job, anxiety is the most important or the most common feeling that we're experiencing. And so when you're feeling anxious, it can make you feel like millions of thoughts are going through your
Mhm.
head, and it's always worst case
Mhm.
scenario, like what's going to happen. And I like people to like go ahead and play it out, right? Like allow yourself to have a journal and just play out what is the this worst case scenario because that'll help you with proper planning if you even know what the anxiety is even telling you. Like, so if it's telling you you're going to be homeless, we're like, hey, can we stop, confront that fear? Is that going to be real? Is that not going to be real? Like,
Right.
then you can do a little reality testing to whatever that irrational thought that's popping up, for you. I'm never will retire. I'm too scared to start a business. Whatever it is, like, go ahead and put that down because oftentimes it usually is like five thoughts. They just playing in your head over and over
Right.
and over and over again, right? But if we can get the journaling like done, then you can say, hey, this is what I can go to. So I'm afraid of finances. If that's the thing, then you're like, wait, there was a financial masterclass they were just talking about. That may be in alignment with how do I overcome this particular fear? If
Right.
I'm having some issues around my identity and who am I and what else might I do? Well, how do I actually like address those particular like issues that I'm having? So I think it makes you feel more clear on what's going on if you're able to just write it down. You don't have to do like a whole novel journal
Okay.
situation, but just even bullet point yourself like, oh, that's it, that's it.
Mhm.
Because then you can see it, like when you find a resource, whether it's just coaching or it's the financial masterclass, you'll know that you're in alignment with what exactly your needs are.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a really
Okay.
good point because when you identify what the fears are, it might reveal that there's some unresolved issues you have in your life that maybe needs to go to therapy and address
Right.
those things. Because if you don't address those unresolved issues, that will again keep you in a very painful situation.
Yeah.
So again, resources might be coaching, it could be the financial masterclass, it could be therapy. So it might be
Yes.
all those things simultaneously, but just to know as Black women that we have so many resources available to us.
Hmm. Okay. So, do you see unique challenges for Black women at this stage, like balancing work, the workplace stress along with personal responsibilities and, even like caregiving? Because we're at that
Mhm,
age, either we have, elderly parents, or some
mhm,
of us still might have our kids at home. Thankfully, we don't. But,
mhm,
you still might have, adult kids at home.
mhm.
So,
Yeah.
is
I mean, they call it the sandwich generation, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
where you
yeah,
might have to do some caretaking on both ends, right?
right,
And I think like, when I talk about finances, the scariest part is because we don't know our numbers. We don't even know what it's like. How much
Mm,
do you need to contribute to your parents? How much do you need to contribute to taking care of this adult child, right? And if it's an adult child, remember adult, um,
right,
you know what I mean? Like, how do we start that process of getting them to be more independent because they can't
right.
be dependent on you always, right?
Mm-mm.
So even trying to figure that out, like how much should I be giving? And particularly like one of the biggest things, and this is Black people in the community, because we have that feeling of like to whom much is given, much is required. I have to give, give, give. And so
Right.
we might give so much to our parents, even to our detriment. And so we have
mhm,
to look and see like how much, what is the balance of giving? So I'm really big on telling people, like, just hey, like we might be able to do some things for them, but not all things.
Yeah.
Like we might not want to make their credit good and our credit going bad. I mean, we gonna need our credit. They don't even need it. They like, they older, right? So you're like figuring
Yeah.
out what the balance might be around
Yeah.
that. So I think it all starts, and we cover this in the financial masterclass around knowing your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because if we can understand what's going out, like how much money are we actually spending? We know how much we make at our job a lot of times, but we don't really understand how much we spend and
Yeah.
where there's some opportunities that we can do some cutting back in some
Yeah.
ways, right? That in cutting back with other people, right? That might be like developing that level of boundary with others, but it
Mhm.
also be boundaries with ourselves, right? Like where do I need to cut back based
Mhm.
on, how I'm managing things? Maybe because I'm trying to manage my stress at this job, that I'm doing certain things that's costing way too much money because I'm trying to I'm overeating, right? Because I'm too
Mm-hmm.
exhausted to actually cook. It could be other things. It could be drinking and smoking or whatever your thing is, right? It could be retail therapy. So
Mhm.
all of those things you're also doing in order to manage the stress of this job that's
Mhm.
also causing like, more financial stress. So I
Yeah.
think once we understand where we are with the numbers, it can make us make a choice on what we choose to do versus just like haphazardly like flowing with whatever the world gives us.
Yeah. I think we have to not be afraid of our numbers. And I know that's
Exactly.
always been a big deal with me. It's like,
Yes.
okay, do I really want to look at? And then when you do look at it, yes, sometimes it can be painful, but
Yeah.
then on the other hand, you might like, oh, I'm not doing as bad
Not
as I
that bad.
thought.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right, right. And I can definitely say, just a little backstory about how I met Dr. Rosché is
Uh,
when I was at the toxic job, I knew that I wanted to get out. But then I also knew I needed to find a way to replace my income, my fear about money. And
right.
I knew I had money issues. I knew I had a money story. I knew that I was avoiding looking at my money,
Yep.
the whole thing. I don't want to look at it. Okay, I pay my bills, but I don't want to look at it, so I couldn't plan for anything because I would avoid looking at money. So I said, okay, I got to get myself together because if I want to get out this job, I got to get the finances together. So I
Right.
have to look at the money. So I said, you know what? What will make it easier for me is to work with an expert, Dr. Roche, an expert who can hold me accountable
Yeah.
and who can kind of walk me through the fears. Like I said, the fears are there. But when
Yeah.
you have somebody who is walking with you, giving you pointers, letting you know what the game plan is, it's less scary. And then I started working with her. So that helped me tremendously to come up with that financial plan so I would be able to leave. And that's exactly what the financial masterclass is that it's me and Dr. Roche with Black women, supporting Black women as they come up with that financial timeline and so much more. We'll cover what they cover, what we're going to talk about, but so much more in the financial masterclass. But to let Black women know they're not alone. But I wanted to just mention this before I forgot that the format of the financial masterclass is Zoom webinar so
Okay.
that no one will be seen except for me and Dr. Roche. So none of the participants will be on camera. Their names will not be listed because as Black women, particularly, 50 and up, we're thinking about, I want people in my business. Like, I want you to know what I'm doing. Right.
Right. Right.
Oh, I don't know, somebody gonna tell somebody else. Right. So no, that won't be a concern, but we really have to think, at our age. Another thing I think that really keeps us here is that at this age, we're thinking about retirement. Well, I'm close to retirement. I could just stick it out until retirement. Or if I leave, what am I going to do about retirement? We're going to talk about that in the financial masterclass. We're going to
Okay.
talk about what to do about your retirement and your healthcare benefits.
Now that's another one. That's a big one. I know for me because I'm no longer working. I'm trying to build my own business, and my husband's still working, but he wants to retire. Hopefully next year. I'm trying to get him out, um, but we thought about that. I'm like, what are we going to do about, our medical benefits? Because that's costly.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can move. I want to move to Portugal where
Oh,
we can get
okay.
some benefits that aren't going to cost us an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in the meantime,
I
if
love
he
it,
just
thinking out the box. I
I
love it.
know,
Yeah.
for real. That's the way.
but if he decides he wants to retire before we're ready to move, we got to think about, okay, luckily we're relatively healthy and we, try and keep ourselves together, but you just never know. You
Yep.
never know. And that's another thing, how these companies keep you locked in because you're like, well, you got those good medical benefits, you got the good vision and dental. You don't want to leave that. But it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
like, wait until you're 65 where you can collect, was it Medicare? Yeah, Medicare. It's like,
Mhm.
no, or,
Yeah.
I don't want to wait
Yeah.
that
And
long.
But
like,
it's
yeah.
two things we need to think about. It's two things to think about. One, and I'm quoting Stephanie Perry, are we accessing the good healthcare benefits because the job is making us sick? So that's
That makes
counterproductive,
sense. That
right?
makes sense.
And are you staying in a toxic job longer, even though it's harming you? So by the time you get to retirement, well, number one, you may not make it to retirement, okay, with the stress and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And or let's say you make it to retirement, what is your life gonna look like? Because you've been beat down by stress all those years.
Yeah.
And what about the time in between until you get to retirement? What is the quality of your life? If you're stressed out every day, you're dreading going to work, you have the Sunday scaries, the quality of your life is not good. And
Right.
your families, because you always talking about the job and they're sick of hearing about it, right?
Right.
So they're concerned, they're worried, but they're also sick of their job too. So it's impacting their
Right.
quality of life as well.
That's true. So I
Mhm.
remember a lot of times I would come home, not from this last job, but a couple of jobs before, and I'd come home crying. And my husband's like,
Mhm.
because of course he's like, he doesn't know what he can do. He wants
Right.
to tell me to leave, but he knows I won't, So
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Mhm.
see how that impacts your family as well,
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
absolutely.
So
Yeah. Just wanted to talk about
sure.
the benefit piece to it because we always are like, what do we do about the benefits? And it's a real legitimate fear. So that's why we cover specifically how to handle it.
Yeah.
Like how do we go out and actually get your own medical benefits?
Mhm.
A lot of times we assume that it's more expensive or like out of our reach because we're
Mhm.
so used to our job paying for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So if you actually take the time to realize like, oh, it's actually affordable if I understand what the
Mm,
what it is. And
okay.
so, we make sure that you like we tell people the different areas that you can look at. I mean, are you in Cali? So, even if we look at, cover California or whatever the
Yeah.
case is, to see like, well, how does that operate and how does it work? So I don't have to have this fear anymore. Then
Hmm.
of course people are fearful of the pension and the retirement. So you want to know like how much are you going to get? If you were to leave, a lot of people can do an early retirement. So
Right.
look and see how much you're going to get if you were to leave early,
Mhm.
or if you just have like a 401k or whatever it is, how do I roll it over and how do I manage it for myself?
Mhm.
So we kind of discussed how to do that as well in the master class because those are real legitimate fears. One day you want to retire, you want to live somewhere and have money just flowing. So we want
Right.
to
Yeah.
make sure, we know what to do with all of those benefits or how to make sure you have the right ones for yourself right now.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us think that Cobra is the only option for us after we leave a job. We think, okay, well, if I leave this job, the good benefits, I got to get Cobra. No, like we talk about
Mm,
Cobra and how expensive it is and what our options are, like real legitimate options. So you
yeah.
don't feel like, oh my God, it's either the job or Cobra or nothing. No,
Right.
there's a number of options that we have, but we're just not informed. We just haven't had that information.
Do you guys touch upon Social Security?
Well, we know well, I tell people that's going to come, right? And how that's going to operate when it happens as part of the class. But Social Security is supplemental, right?
Right.
So for
Right.
most people, it's not going to be enough
Oh
to take
boy, yeah.
care of, everything. That's why we still need to figure out, like, part of like understanding the numbers, right? So if Social Security is only going to give you $1,000, but you need four, right? You
Mhm.
Right.
don't need to live your life.
Right.
Then we have to look and see what is that pension going to cover? How much of it is it going to cover? And then we look at, the idea of multiple streams of income, and
Yeah.
how do we replace that income? Because having a business can be scary. It takes work, right? But you've been
Mhm.
working for those other people for a long, long time. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and honestly, most people, when it comes out to business, they don't put the same amount and intentional work in as they do for their job. You spend 40 hours with somebody, you know what I mean? Making sure
Right.
their dream is okay and that they making money,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Put the same 40 hours into yourself to make
Yeah,
sure that your dream can come true and that you're making money, right? So
Yeah.
we have to, like, it's kind of a shift
yeah,
that we have to make in order to even become a business owner or even get like a temporary part-time job. So we kind of talk about different ways that you might, manage that.
yeah.
I already
And the
told.
mindset shift, I'm sorry, the mindset shift that when we get the healthcare benefits through the job, we're actually paying for that. Like that's actually
You are
coming
paying
out of
for
our
it.
check.
And sometimes it's not as cheap as we think it is.
And
Because I kind of added mine up
they
when I
take a
was at
look.
my previous job. I was like, I had to take as at one time, my husband and I put each other on, just so we had that extra coverage.
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
eventually had to stop doing that because I'm like, I'm paying three or four
paying for
hundred
it.
dollars a month just to have
Mhm.
both of us on there, and our daughter, who at the time, well, she's still under
Yes.
26, but
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
like, babe, I gotta take you off my money because
Yeah,
they're eating up
What
in
you
my
need dual coverage
check.
for? Right.
yeah,
Not healthy.
Well, hey,
That's
that's that mindset. You live in
I know,
America, you're
yeah.
like, you know what? I need to make sure I have all the coverage.
Oh, but that
yes.
right, just in case. Yes, I understand.
So, what are some common coping mechanisms that Black women can use to endure toxic jobs?
Mm.
And how can these strategies either help or harm them in the long run?
Oh, good question. So I've done a number of videos about this, and I've been clear that whatever I'm offering, whatever I'm saying, these are short-term solutions. It's a
Okay.
band-aid because you're not looking at the root of the problem. So it's hard to heal when you're continually harmed in a toxic work environment. So
Okay.
what I talk to Black women about is therapy. It's very important
Hmm.
because you might have to again address some unresolved issues so that you can walk through the fear about what's keeping me at this job. Let's look at what all the issues are so that and a therapist can really be there to support you. So
Hmm.
therapy absolutely. Also coaching is important because coaching will help you look at the next steps, right? So I'm trying to do this. Okay, so what do you need to do? Like I want to go to this next job. Okay, so let's come up with a game plan and that coach can hold you accountable if you want to go to another job and or if you want to have your own business, right?
Okay.
So those are really the most effective things. The other things are things like prayer. I used to pray all the time. So prayer, also affirmations. What kind of affirmations can you say to yourself on your way to work? I talk about music can be very healing. Like I talk about like I would have a certain like playlist on my way to work. I would think about certain songs. So I was at work and then after work, another playlist, right? So
Okay.
music. Also, exercise to get that toxicity out of your body is very important. So, some kind of movement that you can do. And then I also talk to Black women because it's something I used to do was my home is my sanctuary space. So, when I got to the door, I would refuse to talk about my job anymore, right? Because I didn't want that stuff to just taint my home environment. So
Hmm.
how do we create a sanctuary space, a boundary for ourselves so that we don't talk about the job all the time? What kind of boundaries do we set for ourselves so
Mhm.
that when we talk to other people, are we talking about the job all the time, right? So these
Right.
again, short-term, things that we can do. Also maybe pets. If you have a pet,
Mhm.
they can be a good source of support and just kind of releasing those happy hormones. Also going outside, getting some natural vitamin D, which is a natural mood elevator. So again, these
Mhm.
are short-term things that we could do, right? Spending time with
Right.
Yeah.
our friends. But again, if the root of the problem is not addressed, we will continue to have to like do these things. We might feel better for a little bit and then boom, we're right back in it and we have to keep doing these things. And then
Mhm.
some people, which is not healthy, Dr. Rosché talked about this, was retail therapy or overeating, right? So
Yeah.
when I was at the toxic job, I used to have like these little things, these little Dove chocolates. And
Oh,
so I would have like one Dove
chocolate helps
chocolate a day.
everything.
Right, one Dove chocolate a day, right, at the end of the day. But then the stress was so much, I'm eating Dove chocolates all day, right? That was my coping, but it didn't turn out well for me because I had extra
Mine,
weight.
mine were Red Bulls and M&Ms, peanut M&Ms.
Oh,
Oh
ooh.
my goodness. Yes.
I
Oh
would
my
drink,
That's how
I would
exhausted you
drink,
were. Red
yeah,
Bulls.
I would drink 2 or 3 Red Bulls a day. Of
Oh my
course, it was the
goodness.
little ones. They weren't the 40 ounces they have
But
now. It was the
still.
little ones.
But even
Woo!
if you're doing it throughout the day, it means that you were constantly feeling like low energy,
Yes.
right? So you're like, oh, I need another, yeah.
Yeah, and I would always say, "Yeah, when I drink one of these, it's my happy place."
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But when
You
I got
could,
home and on the weekend, I didn't need them. But
huh?
Monday
Exactly.
morning, I'd go and have and those were, 250 a can. I'm
Yeah.
drinking 2 or 3 cans a
A
day.
day, yes. Yeah. So how that's
All
affecting
that
your
caffeine.
finances,
Right.
Right.
you know what I
Woo.
mean? Yeah. So no, that what all she said was spot on, right? You know what I mean? All the
Yeah.
things.
Short
I want to
term.
add just one other coping that people don't pay attention to is how we're approaching our job. Okay. So a
Mm,
lot of times, like we are the ones that are not holding boundaries with the people that are around us, right? So
Mhm.
maybe we're not, after 5, we're answering calls
Mhm.
because we have
Yeah.
a work phone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
yeah.
that was what we did. That's not what
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
job, made you do. So you have
Right.
to make sure that you're looking at that, if you're still answering emails and you're outside of their hours, those are things that you're doing. So you want to like hold boundaries and say, no, I'm not going to be doing that,
Yeah.
anymore. I'm working through lunch. You're making a choice to not eat. You know what I mean? Because I'm working
Mhm.
through lunch. I gotta hurry up and get all these things done. Well, what is that doing to your body when you're not actually
Mhm.
making sure that it has the energy and what it needs to sustain?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Right.
taking our breaks. They're supposed to give you the 15-minute breaks. Are you taking them? Are
Yeah.
you going outside? You can work from home or work in the office, and you're literally in there the whole 8 hours.
Mhm.
Never going out, never taking a deep breath,
Mhm.
just being tense because you just like, let me hurry up and do everything that they want me to do, so you're not even allowing yourself to
Mhm.
stretch or anything. So you
Mhm.
want to look at those areas that you're like, what can I do here that I'm choosing to do? Right?
Yeah.
They're not making me do,
Yeah.
but I'm choosing to do, and hold that boundary too.
Yeah. And I also hear Black women, I'm like, what? They have so many paydays off that they have accumulated. It's like an outrageous number. I'm like,
Hard. Yes.
girl, take
That
your
was never me.
time. Take your time off. What are you
Yes. That's
doing?
come on now. That's so true.
Woo!
Yes.
No,
That is not a badge of honor to have
no,
PTO.
No.
Like,
no.
that means you're working too hard if you have too much
Right.
going on. Okay.
Exactly. And
Make
you
your
and also
day.
accumulating sick time. There was some women that I knew that had hundreds of hours of sick
Oh,
time. I'm like, I barely got 8 on the books because as soon as I get one, I'm like,
Okay.
yes,
Matter of fact, take the
yes,
time and do a financial health day, right? This is the time, like,
that
go look
part.
at your finances. Just take a day off and say, let me just check everything out.
Yes,
right.
You might need to too, right? It's gonna be a lot. You're gonna be avoiding the
Exact
first day. The second day is for you to actually look at the numbers.
exactly.
yes.
So do you either one of you can answer this. Do you find that women our age range stay in the job for and which one probably is the most the most the reason that they stay in the job? Finances, job dedication, or who am I without this job?
Mhm.
Which
Okay.
one do you think is the most prevalent that we stay in the workforce?
Finances,
Okay.
Yeah.
finances. I mean, those
Okay.
Yeah.
other ones are big, right?
Mhm.
Those other ones are
Yeah.
important, but
Yeah.
finances, hands down.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why the financial master class came about was because of that, and we
Mhm.
realized, like, wait, that I'm scared to be homeless is probably the highest fear. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
would have even over like job dedication,
Mhm.
that's happening. But I mean, I think they all are like extremely important. I like those breakdowns. So I'm like, oh, job dedication and my identity is huge
Yeah.
as to why you might stay at a job.
Yes,
Like you don't know who you are outside of this job,
right,
and so that can be like, a little, nerve wracking and stuff. And even if you choose to go to another job, we were doing an interview not too long ago, and somebody said they found themselves at another toxic job,
right.
and then it just
Mm.
caused that extra level of helplessness. But
Yeah,
I'd say, like, look over what's happening at this job, right? If your choice is to go from this job to another job,
Mhm.
start noticing what were the signs at this one. So you're very, very clear when you decide to do an interview at another job, like, hey,
Mhm.
what is like the work culture here? What is the,
yeah,
asking questions that because you're making sure that this is going to be a safe place for you,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
and then noticing signs early of like, hey, this is some unsafety, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
like that's
Yeah.
happening, like what can I do to move, sooner rather than like later.
Yeah. And to not only the red flags, but also do our research. So check on Glassdoor, check on
Right.
Indeed. What do people say about working there? And I want to just
Right.
bring something to the table. I saw a video today. I think it was done on New Year's, but it was ending workplace abuse. And there was a section that was covered about Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey, who took her life in relation to workplace bullying. And they had a
Wow.
quote from her, and it said, so I'm going to paraphrase it, but she said, when you see the red flags at your job and you recognize that you're starting to get harmed, you need to leave. You need to
Yeah.
leave. Don't try to stay and stick it out and make it better. And that was such a touching quote from her. And it was just, just very poignant.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've never ever been that dedicated to
Right.
that
Yeah.
my job was my identity.
Hmm.
And I've been working since I was 15, and I'm like, I would quickly, as I got older and then we have kids, then you have to be a little more focused and, probably stay where you don't want to stay.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow,
Yeah.
mm, that's
That's
sad.
huge. Yeah, it is.
So, because the reason I asked the previous question is because my next question is, how does the fear of financial instability or limited job opportunity influence decisions to stay in toxic work environments?
We have a scarcity mindset. So you have a scarcity mindset that this I got to stay here because there's no other opportunity for make money. And so
Yeah,
I was thinking that too, that there was no other place for me to make money. There was no other place for me to get another job, even though I had all these credentials, right? So
right.
that was a lie I was telling myself, and coupled with my own social programming from my family and other
Yeah,
people. So I had to say, wait a minute, that's not true. That's not true. And I started when I took a leave of absence and I started doing things where I was able to use the skills I already had, and I was able to start replacing that income. And then
hmm
that gave me the confidence. And then working with Dr. Rosché too, that gave me the confidence that I would be able to leave. So I would say to Black women who are in our age group, if you're feeling that fear, like, oh my God, there's nowhere else that I can go, to start thinking about what are the skills that you already utilized at that job, or maybe even before you even got to the job, and how can you utilize those skills somewhere else? And start really looking for other opportunities. If it's a side hustle, if it's something else, but when
right.
you start seeing that, oh, I can make money by doing this,
Yeah.
then you feel a greater sense of confidence, and then get the extra support too as you're making that pivot, getting that support like in the financial masterclass.
Yeah, definitely. And even I just want to add, like, just having a financial timeline, because I think we get afraid like we have to leave like right away, and
Yeah,
have this, booming business. No, you don't, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we talk about, like, what is that timeline going to look like for you to even
Yeah.
build up that confidence to leave, build up that confidence to try a side hustle. Did it feel in alignment with me? Did it not? How to grow that business. We don't want to just go out and just do it. Let's
yeah,
like take your time to making that happen. And so part of the master class, we actually covered that. Like, okay, if you need to leave immediately, hey, this is what you need to do.
Right.
These are the steps, right? But if you can like stay on like 6 months, what can we do? And then what can we do if you have a year? Or maybe you're some people that have said, oh, I want to just retire sooner rather than later, right? It's not like
Right.
extremely toxic, but I want to leave, and I don't know how to make my plan for that to happen. So some
Right.
people are in the class for that as well, and maybe they have 2 years, but at least they get their stuff together, in
yeah,
order to leave.
yes, yes.
And I think that's also another thing to think about. If you have a plan or you have something to look forward to, that
Mhm.
might make it a little bit easier to stay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And another thing, if you have, and I had to, for my own self, I had to look at it this way because I didn't want to go back to, and still don't want to go back to corporate America.
Mhm.
I was in the biotech industry, pharmaceutical industry, and that just doesn't align with what I believe in.
Mhm.
So I was like, you know what? I have retirement. I'm going to use that. And like you said, Dr. Kamani, it's the mindset. It's that scarcity mindset. Because I could sit here and say, well, I don't have enough for retirement. And, and if I use up all my retirement now trying to build this business, well, that's a scarcity mindset because I'm so concerned about what's going to happen that I won't have 5 years down the road, instead
Right.
of saying the business that I have is going to replace and going to help me continue to build my
Yeah.
retirement, or that will be a part of my retirement.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
that's,
Mhm.
that you're right about that. It's that mindset that we
Hmm.
cannot worry, we can't be so hyper focused on the future
Hmm.
Mhm.
and let our health and our mental well-being go now. So,
Exactly.
And
Yes.
not veer to the negative. So
right,
you're like, oh, wait, if I do that, then I'm gonna crash and burn. Really?
right.
Mhm.
Do
Yeah,
like, I
Right.
mean, are there some other steps in between there
in
that you
Mhm.
could
between.
be trying to veer back this way? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
no, it's not gonna be like this automatic
Hmm.
Mhm.
failure. But again, it's that constant reprogramming. But I think it's important too that when we're reprogramming ourselves,
Hmm.
you have to be mindful of the people you're around too. Because
Yeah,
if you're around other people and they keep, girl, what are you gonna crash, you're gonna crash. Well,
right.
right. But if you're around other people, which I've learned with having my own business, is that I have accountability groups with Black women who kind of
Mhm.
keep me on track and we support
Yeah.
each other and we share resources. So as you're moving out, no matter if you want to get another job and or if you want to have your own business, it's
Right.
really important to have a supportive community, I would say of Black women who are your accountability partners.
Yeah.
And how do you find, I'm asking for my own self, how do you find those accountability partners? That's been the struggle for me because I mean, I'm not solo out here doing this. And, I've on YouTube, I've connected with some wonderful women. But
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like, well, there's some things I really don't know since I'm still, so new in this. And because I don't have that accountability, or someone I can say, okay, well, how do you do this? How do you make this work? How do you find those partners? How do you find that group?
Yeah, I found them through my coaching program. So the different coaching programs that I've been
Okay.
in, because
Okay.
I have been very clear, I need to keep investing in myself. There are things that I cannot figure out on myself by myself.
Mhm.
The finances,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out by myself. So I've
Okay.
done different coaching programs, and through those coaching programs, I've met other Black women. But I've also been very open with connecting to people on LinkedIn. And I'll see like their common interests or whatever on YouTube. Hey, can we
Mhm.
schedule a call? Boom. I've met like a lot
Okay.
of friendships through LinkedIn and YouTube. So that
Mhm.
might be a possibility of just like if you see somebody doing something that's kind of interesting and you're like, I wonder how they got there. Like, I wonder what they did. I wonder what their steps were.
Okay.
Just reach out to them and say, hey, I wonder if we can schedule a call to talk a little bit about. And what I've experienced, the vast majority of people I reach out to are open.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we assume people are not gonna be, open or they're gonna wanna charge or something like that, because
Right.
everybody's like, in some type of creating a coaching program. But a lot of people are looking for you the same way that you're looking
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
So somebody's like looking for another accountability partner. And so just like, reaching out and just seeing and connecting, I'm
Mhm.
extremely extroverted. So I'm always, in these streets, socializing and stuff. So, with me, like, as you're like even in social settings, connecting and saying, "Oh, I like that person's energy," and
Okay.
allowing that relationship to continue to evolve, because people need accountability on something, right? Even if it's
Right.
not specifically business, it'll be something that they can might be able to serve and be a good, a help me as times
Yeah.
goes on. So yeah, go ahead and just ask,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, Dr. Kamani, that you said that was really, it kind of struck home is we have, as in our age range, we have so much history and so much knowledge from all these different jobs that we might have done throughout the years, that we
Mhm.
don't look at that experience and those skills as something that's transferable. It's only good in the workplace. I only did this. You know, the one interview that I did have when I first got laid off, I almost forgot all the things I did in my previous job until I actually had to jot them down. And I'm like, wow, okay. Because we
Mhm.
just do it so repetitively that
Mhm.
we really don't look at that as a skill set that we can
Right.
take out to something, maybe a whole different career
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
in your own business.
Yeah, yeah. It's important to reflect on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
To reflect on what are other things that we've gone through in our lives. At this age, we have gone through some things that have knocked us down. So,
right.
what are some of the things that we've gone through in our lives that have knocked us down and we felt like we could not get up? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's much worse, those situations, than a toxic job. And we were able to get up, we were able
Hmm.
to maneuver, we were able to pivot. So, I invite Black women to refer to those things and think about those things as currency, as data. Like, wait
Yeah.
Yeah.
a minute. I went through this, and this, and
Mhm.
that did not break me. I thought it was gonna break me, but it didn't. So
Mhm.
I can leave
This
this
won't break me
situation,
either. Right. Yeah.
right? Yeah, I'll be
Exactly.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Exactly. So we kind of touched upon this. What are the long-term effects on our physical health,
Mhm.
such as the chronic stressors or hypertension that you've observed in clients who endure toxic workplaces?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've
So
seen it all.
yeah, the hypertension, the blood sugar
Yeah.
numbers going up, uh,
Mhm.
Mm,
Ulcers
over
can happen from like,
oh
chronic stress,
and
mhm.
all kind of GI issues, like all
Yep.
kind,
Yeah,
right?
irritable bowel like IBS,
Yes,
irritable bowel syndrome is something that
yes,
happens for
Wow.
people, in
yes,
their stomach, panic attacks,
yes.
like, can occur. So yeah, there's so many things. And even just we know
Insomnia.
everything goes with overweight, even just being overweight, all the
Yeah,
things that come along with it,
yeah.
because we can't take care
Mhm.
of ourselves.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Because when you think about like it's stress eating or the chocolate eating, you're trying to self-soothe yourself. But
Yeah.
also there's research that talks about cortisol makes it
Yes.
harder to lose weight,
Right,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
right? So when you're experiencing that chronic stress, that weight is this, and so we know like weight issues contribute to other, health issues as well. So there could be a host of different physical. And then my hair started falling out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I had like patches just gone in my head, right? And so there's so many things that can happen to us. That's physically. And then psychologically, right? So the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, the social isolation, the feelings of
Mm,
dread, the feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, the lack of self-confidence in yourself. So
Mhm.
that again, the longer you're there, the more pervasive it can be for you,
and
right?
we won't even talk about that at that during this time. Some of us or all of us are going through menopause. So that's
Right.
another thing that's gonna, impact you at work, and I'm sure the workplace can also impact that whole cycle and everything that's going on. So you think your moods are bad just from the menopause,
Yeah,
top that with having to deal with these microaggressions or
yeah,
whatnot. That's a whole nother.
exactly, exactly, exactly. Actually, I met a woman, she wasn't in her 50s, but the stress at the job caused her to go into early menopause.
Oh
Oh,
no.
interesting. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
so what steps can Black women take to protect their mental and emotional health while navigating or exiting the toxic work environment?
Financial masterclass.
Yeah. That's the short
Yes.
answer. That's a short and long answer.
Yes.
Join us
Yeah,
next week, January 8th and 9th, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m.
yeah,
Central, and 7 p.m. Eastern for the
yes,
Financial Masterclass. That is
yes.
going to be your number one step, right? Only
Oh,
because we actually covered it in that way, right? It's A to Z.
okay.
All the things, the emotional things that you got to go through, right? How do you get your vision together to see yourself outside of this and find a new identity? How to build out your skill sets, how to understand multiple streams of income, replace the income. I
Yeah.
give financial literacy, of course, right? Like, how do we, look at these numbers? How do we be so scared about looking at them? Then of course the benefits, retirement, life insurance, how do we manage that? Making sure that we have that as well.
Oh,
So like we're covering everything, so that's
okay.
that's definitely the step that you want to take. On top of that, we have like a workbook that goes along with it. So you end up having
Okay.
a workbook so you can bring that along, even if it's something that you don't do for a while.
Mm-hmm.
from now. You still have the workbook. You can go back, you can look at the replays.
Mhm.
Then there's a little
Okay.
extra bonus on top of that where I give you a little one-on-one with me. So after you're actually in the master class, because sometimes people feel afraid of talking about specific financial situations.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they've been informed, they can have better suited questions to be able to ask me and to be able to utilize our time together. And
Okay.
if you just need the confidence to say, girl, go, right? Or if you need some help, on like how to navigate, okay, how do I manage this debt, or how do I manage, what's happening, with my new business or whatever it may be, we can kind of
Mm,
talk
okay.
about that too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and when you talk about, what are some of the things we can do in addition to the financial masterclass and all those gems that she talked about, but you're in a community with other Black women. So
Yes.
when you think about healing from a toxic job, being around supportive people is very healing. People who are not at your job, because sometimes those are not really your friends. Okay.
No,
So
no.
being in that community is very helpful, and knowing that you're not alone, because all the Black women who are coming to the financial masterclass are in a similar situation as you. So you don't feel like, what's wrong with me? I can't get it together. Nope, 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 nope. You are here, similar experience, but now we are empowering ourselves. And we're taking our power back. We're taking our power
Yes.
back, right? So it's like we're walking in silence. We're not telling people the job, what we're trying to do, or nothing like that. But we're getting prepared so that when we leave, we will be in a really good position.
Okay.
Mhm.
So would this also be a good class for women who have already started their business, or is this for women you're trying to get out of the toxic work environment?
Be both. It can be
Okay.
both.
Okay.
So if you have like any kind of financial like things that you want to like work through, we're going to cover
Mhm.
all of that. But
Okay.
even like, we cover like the steps of like, starting the business. But if you're already
Okay.
in the business, how do you make sure you're marketing and scaling up, understanding what your numbers
Mm.
need to be for the business? That's
Okay.
also going to be important, right?
Yeah.
So how much do you actually need to be making? What are your goals in your business
Mhm.
plan for your business? So yeah, we cover that part too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's really like financial wellness, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, how do we get our financial house in order as Black women?
Yeah.
Yeah, a part of it is getting it in order so that if you're in a toxic job, you can exit. But the
Yeah.
other thing is, as Black women, we need to know about our finances. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Overall.
Okay. So I have one final question. Dr. Roche, I don't know if are you 50? Can you answer this question?
I'm not 50. I will step out.
Okay, so
I am.
so Dr.
We're
Kimani, my
good though.
final my final question. What does being unapologetically 50 plus mean to you?
Mm. It means that I know what I deserve, and I will not tolerate any less than what I deserve. And if people don't see my greatness, that I
Mm,
don't need to be around them. And am I able to curse?
you sure can.
Okay, so
I love a good cursor.
okay, quoting Jill Scott, that I know that I am the shit. I
Mm,
know the shit. And if other people can't deal with that, then I don't need to be around you. I really don't.
I love it. I
Oh,
love it.
gosh, love it.
And Dr. Roche, since I know you in San Leandro,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to come over there and rub on you and get some of that confidence, some of that
Yes.
because I'm
Definitely.
an introvert. I'm an
Uh,
introvert. So being on YouTube, I can do I feel real comfortable with my husband because he and I also do a podcast together. But when I'm doing this by myself, I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna come over there and rub some of that
oh,
extrovert.
please do. Please do. It's so funny. Well, we'll talk offline because I have all these thoughts of
Okay.
people. I'm like, she must be good with this person. So anyway, I'm finding friends for you. I smile.
Yes. Yes, and you see how like bubbly and just full of joy Dr. Roche is.
She
Like
is.
you made like looking at money not feel overwhelming or dreadful
Oh,
or whatever. And I
okay.
just want Black women to know, as you see Dr. Roche here, she's even more than that during the master class. So like we're laughing, we are dancing, we're singing. It's not just dry information like, oh, humdrum. No, it is not like that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
should be like that.
money in and of itself can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
know, yeah. So that's good
Mhm.
to hear. So I will definitely take note. Um, Dr. Roche,
Mhm.
if you want to go ahead and give your any social media, I'll put it in the links in the description, but I didn't get that information. So if you can give that to me and I'll put it in the description. But if you want to go ahead and say it now or talk more about the master class, please go ahead.
Yeah. So you can find me on all platforms, right? And pretty much Dr. Roche. So I'm Dr. underscore Roche on Instagram. Dr. Roche also on Facebook as well,
Okay.
and even LinkedIn, Dr. Roche. So you can find me everywhere. It might say Dr. Roche Brown, even YouTube. I need to be better like you guys. I want to be like y'all this year, okay? Like y'all consistently putting up content. I'm just proud of you. And I have no problem doing videos. I just got to get consistent in the spirit, okay? But when I get there, there's gonna be a ton of videos for people to watch as well.
All right, Dr. Kamani, I already have your information. So thank you both so much for coming on,
Absolutely.
joining me.
Can I
And
say, can I do one
you
look
sure
more?
can.
Okay, so in addition to Black women, as you're listening, sign up for the financial masterclass. So the last day to register is January 7th. But let's say husbands or partners are watching this and they want to gift their wife or their partner the gift of the masterclass. Or let's say you have a friend or family member and you're not a man and you want to gift a Black woman. You can do that by clicking the link, go through the same process, but you're gifting someone you love the gift of freedom.
Amen.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Roche, Dr. Kamani. I truly appreciate your support and you being on here. And I think that's it for tonight, y'all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll talk to you soon. And please sign up for their masterclass. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. I'm going to check it out myself. So, all right, you guys, thank you again so much. And you have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.